I love a masonry facade on the outside of a building. You know, rocks, they don't burn. There's no maintenance. They're impervious to water issues. There's nothing to do here once we finish this install. It's going to look gorgeous for the next few generations. Beautiful. Now, how do we do that in a way, though, that everything behind there is also made to last for a couple generations? On today's episode, I'm going to walk you through all the details of what's behind this rock facade and show you how to do it right. Now, first off, rock or masonry is porous. Rock is a little less porous than brick per se, but we've got a lot of mortar joints, and all this mortar is going to soak up even if the rock itself doesn't. They call this a reservoir cladding. Now, what's the problem with that? When you've got a reservoir cladding, brick or rock or stucco on the outside of the house, and the rain beats down on the house, it's going to soak up gallons and gallons of water. And then when the rain stops, the sun comes out and hits that, it's going to want to drive that moisture and dry to the inside. Now, if we're building a brick house, we'd have a built-in air gap behind there. You're going to typically have a 1-inch air gap behind the brick. But when you're building with rock and stone or even stucco, there's not an air gap back there. Let me show you how we've done that, how we've broken that capillary action, how we've given a drying space for this rock, and how we've set this house up for success over the next couple hundred years. So first off, let me start at kind of the window install. Check out other video on how we installed these Marvin windows, but you want to obviously put a really good window in because this rock's going to be here a long time. And then you want to put it into a waterproofed opening. But what you can see, what's actually back behind there, is Dorkin's Delta Vent SA. That's a peel and stick house wrap that's both vapor open, but watertight and airtight. So now I'm not worried about air leaking through there, and I'm certainly not worried about moisture back there. But remember, we talked about solar drive. We want to make sure there's not a cold condensing surface back there. And also, the stone's going to be on the outside of the house for a long, long time. We want to make sure we're building to the best building practices we can. And so we've used rock wool comfort board on the outside. This is a rigid mineral wool insulation. We're actually using the R8 version, which is 2 inches thick. And I like this because it's vapor open. So I've got a vapor open house wrap, and my insulation on the outside will dry through it as well. So in the really cold days when you're heating your house and it's 10 degrees outside, we can actually dry the house through these vapor open claddings. Well, what I'm showing you here is being built in Texas, but really any climate zone in North America would work with this assembly. The only thing you do different is the colder climates are going to need more exterior insulation. You're going to want to go thicker than this even if you're in the really cold zones. Now, here's what we've done, though, to make sure that we've got that air gap and that we've maintained that. We've used this product right here, also by Dorkin. This is called Delta Dry Stucco and Stone. This is basically a plastic dimple mat. You can see here it looks like egg crate material. Pretty thick, durable plastic. And on top of that, they've bonded this right here, a filter fabric. Now, the filter fabric goes out, and you can see we put a cap fastener to attach this all the way back through into the sheathing itself, or actually into the studs. And now, even in some mortar dropping areas where I've got continuous mortar, I've got everything packed in there, I've maintained my air gap back there. Now, we've drilled some weep holes about every 8 inches or so on the bottom here to make sure that we've got good airflow and good weep out. And then we're also going to be doing those in the top as well. We want to get some airflow through there, but this is going to ensure that we've got that. Last thing I want to mention, when you're doing exterior insulation, one thing that can be a little bit harder is the ties. You're used to seeing typically corrugated metal ties that get nailed right on to the sheathing on the outside, but when you've got this thick insulation, it's a little bit harder. If you look back there, you're going to see this head right here. And this is a Heckman posi tie. What it is it's a tie that's made for insulation. This is what it'll look like when it's installed, but this is what it looks like before we install it. It's got a screw base, and then it mounts right here to the spacer. They actually make a bit for it, so you can screw this right into your studs. And if you didn't have a stud to hit, you could, of course, go with a thicker sheathing, like a 3/4 sheathing that the engineer has designed that you could put one of these anywhere. But in our case, we put these right into the studs. And then once that's drilled in, it's going to look like this right there. Then you're going to put your tie on. Now, they've got stainless and galvanized versions, but here's what the L tie looks like. The mason basically puts this on right here, and then it's going to look like this. And this is going to land in one of his joints so that we can make sure that this facade is going to stay on the building. Now, you've got two options. You've got a straight and angled. You want to make sure this is buried nice right in the center of that joint. And now, when this is all said and done, it's a lot of work, no doubt about it. We've got a watertight, an airtight, but a vapor open assembly. We've got the ability to drain and dry behind the stone. And I've got a cladding here that's gonna last for generations, multiple generations. Impressive. That's really worth the time and effort to do this right, especially when you're spending money on a mason to come in and chip out each stone and do such a beautiful install. Last thing I want to mention real quick, Luis and his crew are so good. Look how you don't even see the lintel up there. He's actually buried that curved lintel. You can see it in another part of the house over here, but that lintel is above where it needs to be. And then he's actually used the structural stone across there, and everything above there is held by the lintel. Impressive job. The guys did a killer job on this. For any information on what we talked about today, including some videos from previous points of construction on this particular house, look in the description below. I'll have a couple of videos, how to install the window, how we use some of these products, including the exterior insulation from rock wool and the Dorkin products that we talked about today. Otherwise, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We'll see you next time.